All right, we're live. 3 seconds into it. Happy New Year. We haven't done one of these in the brand new year, although last week we were going to, and then Josh and I were both sick, and so we had to scrap it. But I'm glad we're back today. And we're kind of following the similar format that we've been doing our most recent live streams, where we're taking 1 year and we're showing 10 of our favorite albums from that year. This is not to say like the 10 what we think are our 10 best albums or necessarily our 10 favorite albums ranked in any particular order. It's just sort of like 5 or 10 random record polls from 1 year. And tonight, we're going to be doing 1991. I was 11 years old. How old were you guys?
I was 12 then, I guess.
Wait a minute. That's not what you said last time.
21.
Oh, did I meant 21. I apologize.
He was in metric.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was 17 years old. It was great.
Let's see.
It was my big party era. 21 years old, getting into the bars. So
Yeah.
I was 26, I think.
I think Josh and I are the same. Yeah, Josh and I are the same age, so I was 17 in 91 as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was kind of one of those, I always look at it as sort of like a transitional year because so much about music changed in 1991 and styles of music and artists. And, it seemed like 1990, we had an idea of where things were going, and then 1991 hit, and it was just like.
Yeah, it was a huge transitional year. It was my senior year of high school. And I've told this to a lot of people. It's absolutely true. I can remember when we broke for Christmas break in 91, people in my school were still listening to Firehouse and Trickster and Warrant. And when we came back in January, I never heard about any of those bands. It was all about Pearl Jam and Nirvana. And it was like, what happened? My taste didn't really change, but it was starting, like Jeff said, but I really noticed it then. It was very, very abrupt.
Yeah.
I didn't notice it because I was just always the same anyway, and then all my friends liked the same stuff that I did. So now it's out of high school.
It's just high school. High school, you really noticed it, with your peers. Yeah. It's like, what? Why? What? I don't get it. But
yeah, I mean, I went to a pretty diverse school in inner city, so there were kids that listened to rap, there were kids that listened to metal, kids that listened to rock. I remember I was the first kid that had a Metallica T-shirt. People would ask me how you pronounced it, and that was way back in the mid '80s.
Wow.
And I didn't. Change like Aaron. Like I listened to everything. I did listen to Pearl Jam. I wasn't a Nirvana fan, but I was an Alice in Chains fan. But yeah, it was just, I had a close group of friends, and we kind of stuck to the metal, the hair metal, the rock, whatever you want to call it. So.
How about you, Gary? What were you listening to prior to 1991? And then did you find that you were changing your listening choices and taste afterwards?
Yeah, that was definitely a weird time period for me. So I was, I got married in 90. So I was also listening to a lot of the stuff that, my wife and I would listen to in the car. So, that was kind of different. I had grown. By the time of the late 80s there, 89 and everything, I was getting tired of all the, the kind of the hair metal thing. And so I was kind of over that. I don't know. I wasn't listening to as much rock. I actually started listening to a lot more blues. A lot more blues and country around that time period, to be honest with you. I mean, I got into some other stuff too. I got into Pearl Jam and, that stuff once it started coming along. But, yeah, it was definitely a weird time for me. But it would start changing really fast. right after that. So this is kind of going to be a weird year for me. And I'll go into it when we tell our picks.
Yeah.
I think we lost him.
Yeah, I think he was having some technical issues. So he dropped out for a little bit. But 1991, the year for Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Soundgarden, EMF. God, remember Unbelievable?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, that Pearl Jam album was enormous. To me, I don't know. To me, it felt like it was bigger than the Nirvana album, but I guess hindsight's 2020.
yeah, I didn't really get Nirvana at the time, honestly. It seemed like kind of like a gimmick to me where it was like, oh, the soft and then the heavy. And it took me a while before I was able to appreciate Nevermind and Nirvana. And I'm talking like 93 maybe, once it stopped being played every 5 minutes on rock radio. But
I just I screwed up. I was trying to figure out what albums came out like in 91, and I started to look at this stuff last week when we talked about it, and then we were going to do it, so then I quit, and then all of a sudden today I got home from work later, and I'm trying to hurry and trying to clean the house a little bit, so like my list should actually be different than what it is.
Well,
I will say that.
We will roll with it. We won't say it. I promise we won't make fun of you very much. So just roll through it. We'll do the best.
I got one on here you guys will probably make fun of me about. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's get into our list because I think that'll explain what we were listening to better than just sort of having a conversation about it. So the order that we'll go in is Josh will be first, Gary, then Tim, and then Aaron, if he's still with us. And then I'll go last. So go ahead, Josh.
Well, my first pick is one that I actually didn't listen to in 1991, but I discovered through the vinyl community and actually discovered through Aaron, and it's a friggin' fantastic record. And that is The Boogeymen. This album it's an awesome album. I know it's got a weird cover with a kid holding a gun and Santa Claus. Yeah, awesome album. So the album starts off with like this doomy riff, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be like, if you never heard it, you're like, oh, this is gonna be like Black Sabbath or something. But no, it's a rock record. It's got a lot of different textures to it, a lot of different styles. My favorite track is, I wrote it down because I always missay it, but it's Dancing on Your Grave, which is like a ballad. And you would think like Dancing on Your Grave, it would be like a comedy song or not, but no, it's straight up serious. But really just haunting and at the same time beautiful. Great ballad. So the Boogeymen, this album is called There's No Such Thing As, and I think it's a great record. So yeah, that's my first pick.
Josh, is that, if I've got this right, is that not the same guy that was in Masters of Reality?
I don't know.
Am I getting that mixed up with somebody else?
I don't know. That is a great question. I will Google it, but I don't know unless you know.
Sound.
They do.
That song you're talking about actually it's almost jazz at the beginning, and then it goes into rock. One jazz thing I like.
Are we just doing one at a time, or what are we doing?
Oh, you want to do more?
Yeah. We'll just roll with one. If we end up being here 3 hours, we'll bundle our picks later on.
Yeah, because I can do more if you need me to.
Hey, shout out to Mike. Hey, Mike, how's it going? But go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
Okay. So my first one is. Whoops. How am I going to see this? This is Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. They've made like a few duet albums. I believe this was the last one they made. It's called Clean Shirt. It's not as strong as some of the other ones that they did. It's got a bit of hokiness to it. I will say that, but just the fact that the two of them are together, they kind of just have enough charm to. I always used to enjoy listening to this. This is just a good one to have a beer or two while you're listening to it. And I would, like I said, it's not their best, but for the time period, I like it. So
Awesome, man.
Yeah, none of us are going to pretend that we like it, Gary, but
That's
I
right.
love Willie Nelson.
respect your pick immensely. All right, Tim.
So this is funny. I had my 10 picked out last week, and that's fine. Didn't happen. So I just kind of left them. And then I get sitting here about half an hour before, and now I've got myself all messed up because I grabbed a bunch of other ones, and now I don't know what I'm going to show. But okay. So we're just doing one.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So I thought I would, instead of picking some of my obvious favorites, I thought I would pick out albums that I never talk about and never get to because they're ones that I like, but they're not my favorite. So I thought I'd pick some different ones out tonight, even though musically it's not all that different. There were a ton of bands at the turn of the 90s getting signed by labels. Atlantic signed most of them, and you saw them in the delete bins for years to come. There were just too many signings. But one band that I think could have made it and did a couple of albums for Atlantic that I thought were pretty good is Baton Rouge. They were very much kind of a Whitesnake-ish kind of band, Whitesnake, Winger, not really glam because they were more, I don't know, well, they were from Baton Rouge, I'm assuming, but they had a great sort of bluesy hair metal sound. Not like Cinderella either. The singer Kelly, what was his last name? Keeling, I think. Yeah. God, I'm not with it tonight. Anyway, he had kind of a Coverdale-esque voice. Their first album, Shake Your Soul, I think is a little bit better, but this is their second album, Lights Out on the Playground. And I think it's pretty good. Ended up in the delete bins, unfortunately, but it's a band that I think if you like this era of music, you might check this out and think, wow, how come I've never heard this before? So that's my first choice of the night.
Tim, I got both those albums. Yeah, I do agree. I like the first one more, but the second one is still good.
They put out a third one too in '97, although it's not really them. It's more. He might have sung with MSG. He sang on the second Blue Murder album as well.
Yeah.
And there's a third album that's self-titled that came out in '97, but that's mostly Kelly Keeling, it's Night Ranger, Kelly Keeling, and the producer and songwriter who's since deceased, Jack Ponte, and they put a bunch of songs together that they had written. So it's not really a Baton Rouge album, but of course I had to get it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I've never seen the third one. I'll have to go find it. So cool. We lost Aaron and we lost
Aaron and Jeff's gone.
I feel like we're in a talk show. Talk amongst yourselves, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
And he's back.
Yeah,
You're
we
up,
lost
Jeff.
Aaron.
I knew it right before it was his turn. Of course, I should have had him go first. Damn it. All right. Well, we'll skip over Aaron, and then if he comes back, here he is. All right.
All right, so
My
we can
damn
do it.
internet. Hey, my internet. I don't know what the hell. This is weird.
Welcome back. All right, buddy, it's your turn.
Yeah. So actually, I actually did make a top 10, my actual top 10 from this year. So, but I got a bunch more I can show if you need me to. So my number 10 was a Kit Tracy with No Rules. Love this album, and Josh sent this to me. It's a unofficial press, but this is one of the best unofficial presses I've heard. And Don't Need Rules was the single, but I like every song on this. And they do a really cool version of Mrs. Robinson, which you don't even know it's that song until they get singing the chorus. It's really good. It's real heavy. They heavied it up and made it really unique. And then The Big Western Sky is an amazing slower song. Trash City is great. Romeo Blues. And Stephen Shareau, he was actually one of the choices that Motley Crue was going to use for the 94 album, but they ended up going with John Corabi instead. But it would have been good with him as well. But I think John Corabi beat him out at the last minute or something. I remember hearing something like that. But this is a phenomenal album. I actually like their EP that came after this a little bit better. But No Rules is my 10th favorite album of 1991. And that year, that was like one of my biggest years for music. And I liked all what people call hair metal, most of it. The heavier side of it's what I got into. But I also like some of the grunge coming out too, because I was a huge Alice in Chains and Soundgarden fan, and more obscure ones like Grunt Truck and all that. I didn't like Nirvana. I never liked Nirvana. Pearl Jam I liked, but I was a big Mother Love Bone fan, so I didn't like them nearly as much. For some reason, they just didn't grab me like Mother Love Bone did. But Kid Tracy's my number 10 there.
Awesome. Good choice, dude.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Nirvana, I know we've had this conversation, or at least some of us have had the conversation about, Nevermind is an album that always got the attention back in 1991. And anybody talks about 1991, you got to talk about Nevermind. And Nevermind was, like the best album of 1991, whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's people who will argue that. But for me, an album like this, I feel like it was so much better than Nevermind, but never quite got the same amount of attention, or people, I don't think, quite looked on it as fondly. But this is Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden. And Chris Cornell, for me, is a top 5 vocalist in any genre. And, this is just an unbelievable record. And so much of this album found its way onto the radio back then, like Rusty Cage, which is a bona fide classic, Outshine, Jesus Christ Pose, which is on here, Searching with My Good Eye Closed is great, Holy Water. I mean, every track on here is a classic. And this was their third album, and they just kept getting, but each album got progressively better. But this is just a fantastic album. And, Soundgarden is not a band that I immediately took to, but there's elements of, Black Sabbath and that, real kind of slow, doomy, grungy kind of sound here. But I feel this is head and shoulders better than Nevermind.
I agree.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome.
All
Good pick, Jeff.
You.
All right, my next pick.
I'm not disparaging Nirvana.
What was
Right.
that?
Yes, I am, I guess. So I'm not disparaging Nirvana because it's what people do now. I've never liked them even back then. So I'm always true to who I've liked the whole way through. So there's just
Right.
I couldn't stand his vocals, and I thought that Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, all these guys had these amazing vocalists, and then there was Kurt Cobain, and I couldn't. It's like it didn't draw me in like the other guys did, even back when it was first out. I didn't
absolutely.
never grab it. Didn't grab me.
Well, and I didn't realize there was a Detroit connection with the artwork. Mark Dancy from the band Big Chief. And this is Trevor from Trevor's Flat Round and It's Fun, who used to live in Michigan. Now he's over in Seattle, Washington, but always loved, because he knows so much Detroit trivia that even I've forgotten about or never knew. So thanks for that, Trevor.
All right.
Now, Josh.
My next album, I don't blame anybody for picking on me about it, because there are terrible songs on this album. And you might be wondering, like, why the hell did you pick an album with terrible songs? But it's got 3 of my favorite covers, and 2 are, I would rank in my top 3 favorite covers of all time. And that is going to be 2 Rooms, Bernie Taupin, and Elton John tribute. And this was a film that was made and also a soundtrack. And George Michael doing Tonight, it to me is in my top favorite covers of all time, probably, and could be number 1. But also Sacrifice by Sinead O'Connor. She takes that song and makes it so haunting. And then Kate Bush does Rocket Man. There are songs I can't stand on this album, like Wilson Phillips. I think they do a terrible job. The Beach Boys, they do a mediocre job of Crocodile Rock. It's nothing fantastic. But those 3 cover songs I love so, so much. And this actually went platinum. Now, this is now my dad's fun all the time. And I used to sit there in the living room and just listen to it. And then eventually I just started to realize the greatness of, just Elton John and by this album. I knew him my whole life listening to radio, rock radio, but just realized how great and Bernie Taupin was. So yeah, that's why I showed this 2 Rooms by Elton John, Bernie Taupin.
Yeah, the Who also did a pretty cool version of Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting.
They do. Yeah, that's another good one on there.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
cool. All right. So my next one. So here's another thing. I only picked albums that I currently own, that I have. So, but I'm kind of cheating on this one. So I'm going to show L.A. Guns. Whoops. Hollywood Vampires, but that is not my pick. This is
Okay.
representing. This is representing A Little Ain't Enough by David Lee Roth. I have that album. I can't find it. I've got the cassette somewhere, and I was looking for it here. My cassettes. Yeah, there we go. Okay, he's got
There
it.
you go. Great album.
Great album. I didn't pick it out, but it's great.
My cassettes and a lot of my CDs are kind of, they're not, they're just, I got to really hunt for them. And so I was hunting for the David Lee Roth and I could not find it, but I always liked that album. It never really got much attention by that point, but I think it still holds up today. I like that. It's just a good, and it's typical David Lee Roth, it's got good rock and stuff on there, and it's got oddball things. And I just like it. That's a good one. So that's my next pick.
It's a great album.
Great one.
It went gold, but it didn't sell in like his previous one. So it was like king of the delete bins for the next year. You used to see that everywhere with the whole bunch of. But I mean, Jason Becker. I mean, he was just amazing on that album. Great Bob Rock production. Lady Luck has always been one of my favorite songs on that album. Yeah, great album. I got to get it on vinyl like Aaron does.
And the box sets out. They have all of them on vinyl. So
well, the problem is I've got the EP and the next two, so it's not really. So me now.
Yep.
So my next one is an album that I think didn't get promoted properly because I think it's a great album, and it is Richie Sambora, Stranger in This Town, his first solo album. Bon Jovi was sort of on a hiatus, and this is not, I think it was promoted like it was like, oh, you're waiting for a Bon Jovi album, get this. This is not that. There's a couple songs that kind of sound like that. A lot more blues, a lot more, a little bit of R&B influence, and lo and behold, and I think most people knew this, but he's a great singer. He's got soul in his voice, and there are songs on here that could have been hits, but I just don't think it was promoted right. There is the possibility that maybe his singer might have been pressuring the label not to promote it too much. I don't know. That's just me being a conspiracy theorist, but it didn't even go gold, and this is a guitarist from a huge band, so something was up. Maybe it was the changing times too. I know one thing that might have helped this album. The first single was a song called Ballad of Youth. Great song, but they should have called it Young Hearts, which is how the chorus goes. They shouldn't have called it Ballad of Youth. It's kind of a confusing title. But there are some actual great ballads on here, like One Light Burning and Father Time. Eric Clapton appears on the song Mr. Blues Man, which Richie wrote about him. And I've always just really liked, this is more of a chill out album than it is a full out rocking album. It's not a pop metal album either. So I've always really liked this one. So I wanted to make sure I gave that a shout out.
That's a cool pick.
Cool pick, man.
Good one. All right, my number 9. And this album I've loved since it came out. I played it to death on cassette, and now I have it on vinyl. And it's all these what they call sleaze metal bands at this time were actually putting their best music out at this time, because it was like getting a little heavier instead of metal. And some of them were going heavier, some were going mellower. But this is what comes around, goes around from Tough. My 9th favorite album of 1991, one of my favorite years of music. And every song on this is good. Stevie Rochelle is just an amazing vocalist. He has a grit to his voice. He doesn't just sound like most guys that look like they did would sound. And starting with Ruckapit Bridge and Ain't Worth a Dime is one of the heaviest songs. It's so good. You Guys Wear Black. Just an amazing record. If you like any of that music, this is heavier than you think. There's a couple ballads that are great on here called I Hate Kissing You Goodbye, which should have been a huge hit. But Forever Yours. But the heavy stuff on there is so good. I love this album. and it's just very underrated, like all the albums from that time tend to be.
Yeah, great album. And Stevie Rochelle was the first rock star ever to give me a call.
That's cool. He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's very cool. Very nice guy.
But that album there, you don't know how many times me and my friends listen to that, driving around and just drinking beers, and it's a great album. I saw them live too, and they were great live.
Back in 1991 or 92 or
I think it was like 92 or 3 I saw them live, and it was a festival, a festival down in Salt Lake called the K-Bear Festival. They had 5 bands there. It was Tough was actually the second band, and then after Tough, there was a local band first, then Tough, and then Dirty Looks played, then Bang Tango, and then it was Wild Side was the headliner. So it was an excellent show.
Oh yeah.
So it might have been, it was whatever year the Wild Side Under the Influence came out. That's the year that I saw that.
Oh, it's
album.
92.
92, yeah.
And that kind of gets to what I'm talking about. Another year,
Mm-hmm.
those bands couldn't get arrested. Like they wouldn't be doing shows, unfortunately.
Well, that place was packed.
That's how quick it changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, the next album I'm going to show, and this is a band, I think of them as like a Waiting in the Wings band, where this wasn't their first album. They'd been around since the 80s, much like Soundgarden, but it just wasn't their time yet. Either the listening public wasn't ready for them yet, or they just hadn't fully developed their sound sufficiently. But I'm talking about Red Hot Chili Peppers and Blood Sugar Sex Magic. This was obviously, I think, most people's introduction to Red Hot Chili Peppers, even though they'd been around for a while, since like the mid 80s. And Mother's Milk, the album before this, was a little bit more commercially accessible. So they were kind of making a step in that direction, actually putting out some radio-friendly hits. But obviously on this one, you have, Give It Away Now, Suck My Kiss, Under the Bridge. I mean, this album definitely broke them through, but it's one of those albums that it doesn't sound dated. It sounds very fresh, even listening to it today. But they had been around a while, but they finally, that lineup finally coalesced with John Frusciante. You got Flea, obviously, Anthony Kiedis on vocals. I mean, I don't think many people would disagree that it was the best lineup of the band. And they'd gone through some early lineup changes. Obviously, there was some substance abuse that played into it, but they finally got their shit together and came out with what I still regard to be, and I don't think it's a very controversial take, that it's their best album, even to this day. But really like that album.
And it's produced by Rick Rubin, which it's amazing how many platinum records that man has produced.
Oh yeah, definitely. Got Will Ferrell on drums.
Yeah. Awesome. Good
That's
pick, buddy.
great.
So
All
my
right.
next pick, I really picked because I thought that this is an album that Jeff and Gary would love. I know that Aaron already knows it and loves it. I think it has elements of the Replacements, it has elements of the Juju Hounds. It's a straight up rock record. I think that what hurt it was on Metal Blade, so a lot of people assumed it's a metal record, but it's not. It's a rock record. It's a band called Johnny Law, based out of Texas. It is just straight up rock. I love this album. I don't think it's as poppy as like the Replacements would be, but it's got the vocalist, I feel like the vocalist name's Eric Larson. I feel like he has a Paul Westerberg kind of style to him. But yeah, I mean, it really did not take off at all, unfortunately. But if you like rock and roll, this is a good album for you. If I was going to recommend a song, I would say Pieces in the Bottle was the hit, but Somebody's Dead, I really love. That's probably my favorite album. So
I love that album.
Yeah, it's a great one.
That was a big party album for me back in '91 too.
Yeah, you guys are big. I love the cover of that album.
Yeah, it's very cool. When I first saw it as a kid, I didn't think it was like a metal album or a rock album. I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? But yeah, I was lucky enough to grab it and I loved it. So yeah, it's cool. Kind of looks like an album like a Social Distortion album cover or something, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
I used that on a Tipsy Tuesday about 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's
Put
a
it
good
on
one,
there.
man.
It's almost kind of like Aerosmith's Pump album, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it's got the elements of it. So if you ever see it, it's not an expensive record. It's just not easy to find. I mean, if I found it, I would buy it for you guys.
I'd
Easily.
heard of the band. I don't think I've ever seen the cover before.
It's
Great
worth
album.
it. You can
Yeah.
find it. Yeah, great album.
I forgot to pull that one, or it would have been pulled here.
But you know, what, Aaron, I did go into this thinking maybe Aaron won't pull this, so I'm going to pull it. That type of thing. So
I just forgot it was 91, and going through the list, I didn't have the record, I don't think, at the time I made my video. I went through that to find all the records, and then I went through the Wikipedia thing, and 91, that wasn't even on there, and I'm not good with knowing years usually, unless I'm just not good at that. So.
All right, well, my next pick is one. At the time, I was listening to it quite a lot. I can't say it's been quite a while since I've listened to it now, but I'm going with "Out of Time" by REM. You had "Low" on their radio song, "Losing My Religion," which that's probably a song that a lot of people are sick of, but I can still get into that song. I've always considered that one of their better songs. I love that guitar line that goes through the whole thing. I used to be able to play it, and I love the vocals and everything. So REM, "Out of Time." I was still listening to REM at that time. The next one was what, "Automatic for the People."
correct.
And then I don't know. It seemed like after that, I kind of lost track of them. But around this time, I was still really into REM. So
Good for you, Gary. I'm proud
Thank
of
you.
you.
Yeah.
A lot of courage to show an REM album.
I love that album.
I'm
And I
trying
love
to,
"Losing My Religion." I'm not afraid to say it. I think it's a great song.
Well, he might not be the first person to show an REM album.
I'm pretty
Alright.
sure that the last two of these I was on, Jeff picked an REM album both times.
Yeah,
If memory
I
serves.
tend not to pick REM because I know Jeff will represent me.
I love the fact.
Now I have to show an Olivia Newton-John album. Great.
Get on it.
I love the fact that Gary's picking up cassettes. That's great. I just grab CDs because I'm lazy, and I have some of these on vinyl, but not all of them. And actually, the next one, I was hesitant to pick this one up because I only really like a few songs on it. But Josh gave me courage when he did the two-room thing because he doesn't really like it all the way through. But this album, what I do like on it, I really like the concept of it because, as people know, Journey was not active for about 10 years. So they put Raised on Radio out in '86, toured that for about a year, and then Steve Perry didn't want to do anything. So they splintered off and they did, Bad English and solo albums and things like that. But at the end of 1991, I distinctly remember listening to Top 40 Radio, and this song came on, and this voice came on, and I thought, that sounds like Steve Perry. Sang a couple of verses, and then another voice comes on, and I went, that's Greg Raleigh. I'm like, holy cow, did Journey get back together? I was really confused. I'm like, but Bad English are still, what's going on? Obviously, Jonathan Cain was in Bad English, but anyway, come to find out, I was hearing this. This group's called The Storm, and they had a top 40 single in '91 called "I've Got a Lot to Learn About Love." It's just a mid-tempo rock song, right up my alley. Thought it was great. Didn't know who it was for a couple of years, and then once I did, I got the album. Now the album, all the way through, is pretty derivative. Like it's pretty standard rock. It's not like it is actually 3/5 Journey. The singer is a guy named Kevin Chalfant, who was at one time in the running for Journey to replace Steve Perry, but he didn't get the job. He sounds a lot like Steve Perry, or he did back then. So you've got Greg Raleigh on keyboards and vocals from the original Journey, also from Santana. You had Ross Valerie on bass, and you had Steve Smith on drums.
Oh.
And the guitar player was a guy named Josh Ramos. So it was 3/5 Journey, but it didn't click, and it kind of came out at the wrong time. But this was on Interscope Records, and it didn't certify or anything, but it's got a couple really good songs. The opener, You Keep Me Waiting, is really good, and I like the first song on side 2 called I Want You Back. They really could have used some help with the lyrics. The lyrics are extremely cliche, and it's one of those things where they sing a line and you know what the next line's going to be. Like it's really, and sometimes I don't get stuck on things like that, but I just know that with the talent in this group, this should have been so much better than it was. But what I do like about it is makes it worth talking about, because I've never heard anybody say they only did one other album in '95. And by this time, it was just basically Kevin Chalfant, like Ross Valerie, Steve Smith. Obviously, went back to Journey, but anyway, worth checking out if you're a Journey fan and you're just curious about what some of these guys were doing, in those sort of lost years. So that's my next one.
Nice.
Cool choice, man. Yeah, I do own that, and it's funny because in 1990 there was an album, The River Dogs, with
Vivian Campbell.
Yeah. And I like that album, but to me it's very similar, where it's like the lyrics are just kind of like, it's like very AOR. I can get into it. Vivian Campbell rips on the album, but it's like you can see like it's almost like they're trying to simplify the lyrics. Like, let's make it catchy as possible, And I feel like that a lot of those bands fell into that trap.
Well, sometimes it's like I can see why bands hire or work with outside writers, because you got to have someone that's like a wordsmith. You're like, I see what you're trying to say here, but maybe you could try something different. I don't get out of thesaurus or something.
Yeah.
Yes, there are other words that rhyme with fire except desire. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Or pyre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. My number 8. And this is my favorite album by this band. That's how good this year is. That this is my number 8 album of this year. And this is a fantastic record. It's my favorite album by this band that I love. And it's their 3rd album. To me, it was the pinnacle of where they went. But it's Psychotic Supper from Tesla. Love this album. I think it's their best album. Yeah, there you go.
Now I don't have to talk about this one because it's been
Government Personnel going into Freedom Slaves. I love that so much. That song is so good. But, even like What You Give is on here. Talk About It. I just love this album. I'm sure. Yeah, this is my number 8 of the year, and I love this album. And they're one of my favorite. They're a great band. I've always loved them. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. This is what I need on vinyl too.
Is the record folded like that too? The vinyl record, so you can just kind of.
My record doesn't fold out.
Yeah, that'd be cool if they did that.
Edison is such a cool song.
What can you say about this? It just, and I like the song and Emotion on there about Steve Clark was really cool because they were on tour with him on the Stereo Tour and Friends.
Great tribute. Yeah.
Don't De-Rock
That's my
Me.
favorite song on the album.
Don't De-Rock Me. Oh man, yes. Yeah, gets good stuff. Time, that's a good song.
Yep, every song. I love Mechanical Resonance and Great Radio Controversy and Bust a Nut, but that's always been my favorite. And check it out. Hype sticker, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I have a hype, but it's a reissue, so.
Yeah, I have the reissue too, but this is an original I found. It's got a scratch on one side, so I got it for really cheap, but it plays through fine. But they was like, I got it for like $10. And I said, I'll buy original with the pipe sticker for that, just to have the hype sticker.
Yeah.
But it still sounds good.
Well, you can skip my next pick, Jeff. We'll just go straight to Gary, because that was what I was going to do. So yeah, great album, Aaron.
Okay.
Sorry, man.
No, it's okay, dude. You said everything I would have said. So fantastic.
All right. My pick, and I wasn't going to show this album yet, but I will now because Gary already mentioned it. REM, Out of Time. And I have a real complicated relationship with this album because I was I got into REM, and I know I've talked about this before, when we've done previous years, and I've talked about REM albums. But I got into REM in the mid 80s, and so I was very much used to kind of that jangly alternative sound that they had. And then Document came out and they blew up, and suddenly everybody knew who REM was. And then Green came out, and suddenly you got Peter Buck beginning his love affair with the mandolin, which was like, okay, but it's only like a couple songs, and maybe like George Harrison of the sitar, he'll grow out of it. It's maybe just a phase. And REM had always put out an album a year. It was like, okay, it's a new year. Where's the new REM album? And 1989 came and went, and then there was no REM album. And then in the spring of 1990, I was away at college, and one of my roommates got the advanced CD single for Losing My Religion, and he had it and he played it. I'm like, the fuck is this? I do not like this song. And I'm like, God damn it. Is this really the way they're going to go? And to this day, like I've warmed up to it a little bit more, but I'm still not a Losing My Religion fan. And it's that goddamn mandolin. I do not care for the mandolin. It's my least favorite stringed instrument. And I'll take the banjo over the freaking mandolin, but it is what it is. But did you have to make an entire fucking song with the mandolin? And then got it. And then finally it's like, okay, I'm like not gonna not buy the new REM album. And so you put it on the first song, there's like fucking rap on it. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, are you kidding me? And then straight into Losing My Religion. It's like 2 songs in, I'm already like, Jesus Christ, like, I'm gonna have to break up with this band. I can't take it. And then, with like Low but it's not a favorite REM album of mine. It's probably in the bottom of my REM list. Shiny Happy People, enough said. I just don't.
That I hate.
It's like, what the fuck? 2 years, yeah. Like, this is the best you could come up. Even Low is basically a demo song that's not been kind of fleshed out. And then it's just all this like Near Wild Heaven, where you've got Mike Mills who's singing on some of it. And then you've got another song with Kate Pearson. And it just really, it was like almost an entire album of Stand from, the previous album, Green. It's like, okay, this is almost like a bridge too far. And then, with their subsequent album, and that's why, I like REM after Green. They have their moments. Obviously, Automatic for the People is a great album. But this was kind of where, for me, I started to kind of fall a little bit out of love with them. I'm always a fan of the IRS period, the Warner Brothers period, not so much. And it's kind of hit or miss for me. Tim, I kind of feel, because I've seen enough of your videos about Bon Jovi.
Yeah. I'm feeling it, man. And it's hard when you're invested in a band, and they all of a sudden they're not the band that you liked in the first place. So they're just, you can take a song or two, but when you've got an album's worth, it's like, I don't like this. I hate, and it pains me to say it.
Yeah, and it was really hard because you're just like so used to like, oh, I'm automatically going to buy the next album, and then you put it on, and it's like, wait a minute, is this the same band? Like, what? It's
hard not to take it personally, right? It's like, how dare you?
I know.
I believed in you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shiny Happy People just makes me think of Dennis Leary.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it's like, I'm okay with like a novelty song, like Van Halen, like, they got like their Big Bad Bill and their Happy Trails and, shit like that. But this was like, well, no, we're going to lead off the album with it. We're going to lead off side 2 with this. So obviously it wasn't just like a one-off joke. And like, I get it, the B-52s were from Athens, Georgia too. But like, yeah, the song was on fucking Sesame Street. That, right there is an indictment of that song, that it worked great on Sesame Street. Doesn't work well on an REM album. I think not. So yeah, there are songs that I like on this album, but it is probably near the bottom, close to the bottom in terms of my REM ranking. But yeah, that's why I've always made that connection, like with Bon Jovi, because like at a certain point, they're like, yeah, we're going to totally, this is a makeover and this is who we are now. And too bad if you don't like it. And they've never sounded the same since. They've never gone back and been like, yeah, we're going to do an album like we used to do it. And I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, I know I've gone on way too long.
That was fantastic. I love it.
Exactly. Shiny Happy People is one of the worst songs of the 90s, in my opinion. Terrible.
Easily. Yeah.
Stand is right there with it too. I hate that song.
It's better than Shiny Happy People to me. But all right,
Yeah,
Gary,
but
we're
I get
skipping
it,
the-
Gary. It's like cut from the same mold, basically. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, we
really,
got away
yeah.
with that. We'll just up the ante. We'll get even more silly and ridiculous on the next record.
So, you're
Oh,
skipping this one, Josh?
Yeah, I'm skipping it. Go ahead, buddy.
All right. So I went with Use Your Illusion by Guns N' Roses. I'm just showing two instead of one, just because I've always thought that they could have condensed these, and then they would have. I don't know. I feel like they would have been so strong if they would have just taken all the best songs. But there are, I think, over those two albums, there are a lot of good songs on there. But, with two, I mean, it starts out with Civil War and then goes into 14 Years, which to me, those were a couple of my favorite songs off of both of these. And then this also has You Could Be Mine, which I love that song. That one to me, that's still raw. I mean, I hate that they redid Knocking on Heaven's Door on this after they already had that live one. I never understood why they wasted their time doing that studio version that just sounded so dead. But there was some throwaways, but there was a lot of good songs on here. I just think the fact that there were so many songs and everything, some of them kind of got lost. It's like there was so much more of this that could have been played on the radio that never got there because there was just so many songs. I don't know. They had Appetite for Destruction and they were like the biggest band in the world. When that came out, that was like the biggest album, and then everything went bloated. I mean, for them to come out with their next proper album being a double studio album, it's like, are you at that stage yet? Should you be doing that? You know what I mean? I don't know. There's aspects of this that I don't agree with, but I cannot deny some of the fantastic songs that are on these albums.
It's actually
Yeah,
a
there would've been-
double album. So
The double album. Yeah, it's 4 albums of music if you think about it. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure Aaron, you probably feel the same way. Like they probably should have released one album and then maybe a couple of years later released another. I agree with you, Gary. Like 14 Years. I love the Izzy Stradlin songs. Those are my 2 favorite. 14 Years
Yes,
is
mine too.
fantastic.
Dustin Bones.
Yeah. Dustin Bones, another
Yeah,
great
yeah,
one.
yeah.
I mean, and there's some great lyrics on it. Axl Rose was always a good lyricist. I know his voice could be desired. Some people love it, some people hate it. I mean, I don't know, Gary, but in that point in my life, 1991, I was like Aaron, driving around, probably drunk, listening to those albums.
Pretty tight.
Yeah, it was hard not to. It was all over the radio, and everybody owned it.
Well, and there'll always be those people who are like, should they have just made one single album rather than, just because you can, does that mean that you should? Same for Bruce Springsteen, when he did the same thing where he put those 2 albums out simultaneously.
Yeah.
And like, well, did it need to be 2 albums? Should you have just put out one
he
solid
should have done
album?
the same thing. Yeah.
Totally.
Space them out a little bit too. But that was the CD age, right? Everybody was trying to just fill the CD up to its max.
Yep.
I mean, that's those
In my
Springsteen
world,
albums.
I
have
could have
some
done
great
without.
songs.
What was that?
But
I said my world, I could have done without.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that song.
yeah, my world sucked. What I was gonna say is those Springsteen albums had some great songs. I don't like the production on those 2 albums, but like if I Should Fall Behind is a song on one of those albums that was nothing at the time and now is considered one of Springsteen's greatest songs. People love that song. So it just took time to ferment with people. I think there was too much music too soon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
I agree.
So my next one is an album that I'm surprised that it wasn't more successful. I mean, this was an artist that was sort of beyond being affected by grunge. He should have been in that upper, like, like Aerosmith or Metallica, where it didn't matter, like the trends didn't matter. I don't know what the case was. I think it may have been that there was an abbreviated US tour. I'm talking about Alice Cooper and Hey Stupid, which came out in the summer of 91. Now, personally, I didn't get into Alice until a few years later, but I think this is a much better album than Trash, which was a platinum album. Now, having said that, I love Poison. I think that's a great song. I don't think there's anything on here I like as much as that one song, and I like the album Trash. But I'll tell you one thing that I prefer on this album is the production. I'm not a big fan of Desmond Child's production on Trash. I like Peter Collins' production on here. Mickey Curry on drums. It's a great sounding album, and there are all kinds of good songs on here. I mentioned the band Baton Rouge. Those guys are all over this album on backing vocals and in some cases some writing. For example, Love's a Loaded Gun. That's one of the songs that ended up on that third Baton Rouge album, a remake of it. Probably the best known song on here is Feed My Frankenstein because it's in Wayne's World. That was it was a huge movie. But I mean, Die For You is a good ballad. Dangerous Tonight, Snake Bite. There's just one good song after another on here. Might As Well Be on Mars is a great ballad. Maybe it came out a little bit too late, but 91, like I said, it was 91 into 92. So in 91, it was still possible to have this sort of, if you want to call it his hair metal period, be successful. I don't even think this album went gold in the US, which is pretty crazy. But then again, I think a lot of Alice's albums are overlooked. It's just this was a major label one. So that's my pick. I think this one, it deserves looking at again.
That's an excellent pick.
Yep. Nice pick.
Good one, dude.
Well, my next one's already been shown, but I'm going through my actual list. So this is my number 7, and this is my favorite album by this artist. And it didn't do it like Tim was saying. It didn't do as well, but A Little Ain't Enough is my favorite David Lee Roth solo album. I love this album. I mean, I love every song. Sensible Shoes has always been one of my favorites. Hammerhead Shark is one of my favorites too. I really love, Tell the Truth. That's one of the best ballads he ever did, or slower songs. I love Tell the Truth. I remember seeing him do that on David Letterman, actually, and it was really good, even on that. But it's just a really long album, which I like about it. And Dogtown Shuffle, Drop in the Bucket might be the best song on it, though. The one, Jason
song.
Becker on Drop in the Bucket is amazing. Oh, my God, Drop in the Bucket. But I love this album so much. And this is an original copy of it. But I love that album.
You know what I think might have
I'll Die on That Hill.
hurt when that came out, Aaron, is you ever remember the video for Little Ain't Enough?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
He's got the pink Jeep. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe that could have been toned down a bit. It's a great record.
It looked like a California Girls Part 2 video almost.
Yes.
Yeah,
In a way.
maybe a couple years too late for that, but I mean, Dave was Dave.
Yep. But the
Yeah, I
album
think
itself
that's-
is fantastic.
It's fantastic. And to me, like Aaron said, like it's one of my favorites, so much better than Skyscraper in my personal opinion. But
Yeah.
it's great and overlooked, and more people should have bought it.
All right, this album that I'm going to show is my favorite album by this band. I'm not going to say it's their best album, but it's my personal favorite, which it's going to seem strange. It's almost like picking Door to Door as your favorite Cars album, but for whatever reason, I just love this album. And it's Dire Straits, On Every Street. I
Great
love
album.
this record.
That's their last album, wasn't it, Jeff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the last album, and for me, it's the album that I played the most. And the interesting thing about this album, it was 1991, and they had, that huge Brothers in Arms album from, I forget what year that was, 85 or 86. Yeah, 85. And, it was like their most successful album. They were all over MTV. They were all over the radio. And then Mark Knopfler's like, here's a great idea. How about we kill the momentum that we built up by releasing our most popular album, wait till everybody forgets about us, and then in 1991, put out an album, and it'll be our last album. But I everything about this album, there's not a single track on here that I don't like. And I love it's everything great about Dire Straits. I mean, it's got like the moody atmosphere of Love Over Gold. It has some poppiness from Brothers in Arms. It's got some like retro, where you've got that great guitar picking from Mark Knopfler, like from the first two Dire Straits albums. But yeah, I love it. I love the title track is great. And it's almost like Mark Knopfler is making an album, it doesn't care whether it's commercial or not. Stylistically, it's all over the map. There's some rockabilly here and there. There's some, very mature sounding, almost like Sting. You know how Sting, and his solo work puts out some very unpoliced sounding like tracks, a little bit more mature. But I freaking love this album. And there's not a Dire Straits album that I don't like. I feel like all their albums are excellent. They didn't put out a bad album. But this one has always just been the one that I go to, that I enjoy the most. And there are people who, maybe like, well, that's a strange pick or laugh at it. But I've said before, I love that album. Love it head and shoulders above any other Dire Straits album, even though you can argue, well, probably Making Movies or Love Over Gold is a better album there, and I don't disagree. But in terms of my favorite Dire Straits album to listen to, that's always been the one that I go to.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that record. Great one. I was so happy when we re-released it on vinyl because that thing was, I had never seen a vinyl pressing of it up until a few years ago.
Yeah, it's not the greatest pressing, but I mean, in the absence of any other pressing of it, it'll do. But
we'll see what Rhino does. Maybe they'll do the high fidelity.
I would love it. Let's get all their albums on the hi-fi pressing.
Yeah. So just like you, Jeff, my next one is my favorite by an artist, and it's their second album. It produced by Ted Templeman. Bullet Boys, Freak Show. Love this record. I've loved this record since it came out. It actually has a Tom Waits cover on it, Hang On St. Christopher, which I love that Tom Waits song. At that moment in my life, I wasn't a Tom Waits fan. So I heard this first. But it actually, is so much, it's so diverse, this album. It's got blues songs on it. It's got rock songs. It's got a great song called Hell Yeah, like heavy metal. Just all over the map, but fantastic. Great album to listen to. It's got a really cool cover that if you get the CD, it folds out, and actually Tom Waits is on there. The song I would tell people to check out if they've never heard it is another cover song. They do two covers on this. And it's a song called Talk to Your Daughter, which is like an old blues song. But they do a fantastic version of it. Really great. So, Aaron, I apologize if you're going to show it, but Freak Show by Bullet Boys, one of my favorites.
It might be coming up.
All right. It took me forever to find that thing on vinyl. I'll tell you that right now.
So, my next pick, because like I said, I have to own the album, and I do own this. It's just in the other room, and I'm not going to go try to find it right now. But I didn't realize it was released in '91. But so I'm not going to show my one pick, but it would be Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden. That's got to be on here. There you go. I'm looking California, but I'm feeling Minnesota. Okay, I mean, Outshined. Just the song alone would put that on there, let alone Jesus Christ Pose and Rusty Cage and all that. So that's my pick. I mean, Jeff has already talked about it. So Bad Motorfinger.
Great pick.
So my next pick is a band that they started out really heavy, but they always had a little bit of prog to them. Very much, I would say, like Queensryche. so that by the time they got to the end of the 80s, turn of the 90s, they started to refine the sound a little bit and get it maybe a little bit more commercial. They never really did break through, but I think this is a great album. This is Fate's Warning and the album Parallels. And the easiest comparison I can think of is that I think they were trying to do what Queensryche did with Empire, just be a little bit more accessible. That's certainly not to say this is a pop album by any stretch, but this is very sophisticated guitar and songwriting from Jim Mateos, great vocals from Ray Alder. This song, there's a song on here called Life in Still Water, which actually features the first major label, well, sort of quasi-major label. It's on Metal Blade. At this time, Metal Blade was distributed by Warner Brothers. James Labrie, who had just joined Dream Theater, sings backup, but Images and Words wouldn't come out until the next year. Eye to Eye, great melodic hard rock song. I think there's a video for that one. They also did a video for the song Point of View, and I think they should have put out the song We Only Say Goodbye as a single, produced by Terry Brown. So they're definitely going for that sort of refined progressive hard rock thing. I think this is a fantastic album, very listenable. Not all of their stuff, like the early stuff is really heavy, really, not extreme metal, but it's really, really traditional heavy metal and lots of complex changes. This is just a little bit more accessible, and I think it's a really, really good album. Probably their biggest album, but none of their albums were all that big.
Nice.
Yeah, I haven't heard that album in years, but I'm going to go check it out. I remember liking it.
All right. Coming up to number 6, huh?
You got it.
All right. Well, this album here, I think Gary would love this record. It's kind of like a heavy Southern rock album in a way, but it's like if the Rolling Stones were heavier or Leonard Skinner or something like that, but it's got its own sound too. But this has always been one of my favorite albums, and they even mentioned the state of Idaho in one of the songs. This is the Four Horsemen. Nobody Said It Was Easy. Oh man, I love this album. It's just a rocking album all the way through. Wanted Man is the one where they go through all these places wanted, so he says Idaho in it, so I thought that was cool. Moonshine's killer, but starting off with Nobody Said It Was Easy and Rockin' Is My Business and Tired Wings, those three all in a row. It's one of the best 3-song intro to an album there is, the Four Horsemen. And they're like a heavy, like a hard rock, Southern rock, kind of, I guess you'd say. But I really think Gary would like this one.
It's a great.
That's my mission in life, is to find you a copy.
Was that Rick Rubin too, Aaron? Did Rick Rubin produce that? Or
Yeah, it
that's what I
is.
thought. Yeah,
There it is.
just bare
And
bones.
Yeah.
James
this is a great
Hetfield,
record. You know this one, Tim?
Oh yeah. What was his name? Frank Starr. Unfortunately, he died
Yeah.
way too young. But yeah, that album. I bet you that album sold somewhere in the 250,000-300,000 because that was a fairly popular
Yeah,
album. I
that was
used
a big-
to see that a lot. I don't think it was certified,
Yeah.
but it must have done okay.
It was a big party album
James
for me and my
Hetfield
friends too.
wore-
A lot of these were.
I was going to say
James
James
Hetfield
Hetfield wore
what?
a T-shirt of the Four Horsemen. James Hetfield wore a T-shirt of the
cool.
Four Horsemen in the Nothing Else Matters video. So, like,
Oh,
somebody
of that
must have
band,
seen
the Four
that.
Horsemen, or was he referring his own song?
No, he was referring to that band. It was the cover of their EP.
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, I didn't have the
Yeah.
EP back then. I have it now.
Yeah,
That's cool. I'll have to check that out again, but I never watched that video.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite.
Okay, my next pick is another one of these. Call it a band that kind of went the same route as Bon Jovi, just like REM, where it was like up to a certain point, they're like, all right, well, we're gonna go in a completely different direction and piss off our original fan base. But I do like this album. The next album, the one after that, not quite so much. But I'm talking about U2. Achtung Baby. I've been a huge U2 fan since, again, like the early mid 80s. And then they, obviously they had their biggest album, Joshua Tree. Then they had a movie and a hybrid live / studio double album with Rattle and Hum. And then they put out an album which, you know, I think kept them relevant. If they had done Joshua Tree Part 2, I'm not sure how it would have been received back during the day. But, you know, stylistically, this was such like a huge, like people couldn't believe what they were hearing. Like the first single off of here, The Fly, was, I mean, I think it like, that's you too. Are you kidding me? It just sounded so like industrial, nothing like their last proper studio album, Joshua Tree, but it all worked. Like they managed to put out, you know, an album just as great as Joshua Tree, even though they kind of went off the rails with their next one, Zooropa, and then Pop, and then it was all downhill from there. And you know, it was one of those. It was like, you know, when The Fly came out, like, I'm not sure I like this, but then eventually I got it, and you know, Mysterious Ways came out, and obviously One was a huge hit. One of the cool things that they did for this, and this is kind of like the Def Leppard did with their Hysteria album, is the cover of like their singles. Like if you put them together.
Yeah.
This is like the CD singles. It forms like one image. The one single didn't do this. This was like the one that didn't conform to that. But then it's like they're driving in this car like with graffiti on it or something. It's just really kind of interesting. I didn't realize that until just like a couple of years ago that like those images, no, they were together like a puzzle piece. It was, you know, in terms of, you know, the artwork, it was very interesting. But yeah, this is probably the last, and don't give me that bullshit, all that you can't live behind. Fuck that album. This was like the last, I think, great U2 album. And then after that, it was like, yeah, I like songs here or there, or might like most of an album, but there's just not the magic. There's not, they just seem to be chasing trends. And it was like, whatever seems popular, whatever they think will get them on the radio, whatever they think will endear them to a new generation of listeners, they're going to put out. And they just never got back to those classic albums like Boy and October and War and Unforgettable Fire. And, you know, even Joshua Tree, like the U2 albums from the 80s for me were just incredible. And then in the 90s, it was like, yeah, I really want to keep up with you. I really want to, you know, stay a U2 fan, but they really lost me. And they were never the same band, and I just don't like U2 like I used to.
Yeah, there's another album. I didn't realize that came out in '91, or that probably would have been on my list too. But really, I agree with everything you just said. Although I did like Zooropa quite a lot. I don't know how well it holds up now, but at the time I was really into it. But yeah, everything else you're saying, yeah, I never listened to any U2 albums past.
Yeah, Zooropa, you know, Zooropa has its moments. I think the cover artwork is dog shit. I think, you know, Numb is a stupid song with a stupid video. And, you know, I know Aaron likes The Wanderer, the last track on that record with Johnny Cash. But even like Lemon, I don't know, like Lemon, I'm not a fan of, you know, Bono and the falsetto. You know, it just seems like they're trying to get too cute in moments. But yeah, there are some great tracks on that, but it just doesn't hold together like Unforgettable Fire or a Joshua Tree or an Octung Baby. It's like, yeah, there's songs.
I agree.
Yeah. So
yeah, I feel like their legacy would be completely different if they had broken up after Octung Baby.
Oh, I wish they had. I wish they had. Like, I feel like their legacy, I feel like people would look at them a lot differently with a lot more reverence if they had broken up, and if people would have been like, God, they were such a great band, but you know what they did, like Dire Straits or, you know, some other great bands, they knew when to quit. They quit while they were ahead, like the Police or some other bands. Where it's like, you know what, this is it, and this is us, and we're not gonna do anymore. I mean, you know, there's something to be said that they never had any lineup changes. It's still the four guys but it doesn't matter when you're putting out shit music for the last, 2 or 3 decades. Like, I don't care. You guys hung around way too long, and there were people who will say, yeah, but what about all that you can't leave behind, or what about this or that? No, and I feel like I always feel like I'm an old man talking about it, like, oh, they were never as good as Joshua Tree. I
They were.
buy it,
Yeah. All right. All right. So my next pick was actually produced by Andy Taylor from Duran Duran fame. So believe it or not, he produced a heavy metal album, and it's a great album. It did not do well in 1991, but I do think it stands up. And it's a band called The Almighty, and this is their second album, I believe. It's called Soul Destruction. It's kind of like in the vein of, I would say, the vocals don't sound anything like Axl Rose, but in the vein of like a hard rock, like a Guns N' Roses type of band. The first single, I believe, was Crucify, if I'm not mistaken. But my favorite songs on here are Love Religion. That one is awesome. Bandage Knees, another great one. Great album. If you like hard rock, and I'll tell you what really stands out are the drums on this album. Andy Taylor did a great job of the production on this album, and it's great. So The Almighty, Soul Survivor, you should go get it. Soul Destruction, I should say. If you haven't heard it.
That's cool.
So that's
Love
what
that
Andy
album.
Taylor's
That's
been
what
up
I'm
to.
still looking for.
Nice. Cool.
We'll find it for you eventually. Well, think about this. Andy Taylor the next year, right, had the Wedding album. Didn't that come out in 92?
He wasn't on
Yeah.
that.
Oh, he wasn't on that.
No, that was Warren. I never know how to pronounce his name from Missing
Cucciarillo
Person.
from
Yeah,
Missing
from
Person.
Missing
Oh,
Person.
that's
Yeah.
right.
But Andy Taylor also produced the first album, or I think maybe the first 2 albums from that band Thunder. From
Oh,
the
yeah.
UK. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, he was the
Yeah.
rocker. I mean, just listen to Power Station. He was the rocker of Duran
Right.
Duran, and he's not doing so well either.
Yeah, I think he's
no.
got cancer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my next pick is one of those albums that had the unfortunate problem of, how like when a band has like their biggest album, and then the follow up kind of isn't maybe quite as good, and it gets kind of forgotten about, and that is let's see what Funky Style Music Got You Good Now, Children. Ceremony by The Cult.
Oh, great one.
I like this album. I don't like it as well, as Electric or Love or Sonic Temple, but I still like it. Yeah. Oh, you've got the record. That's cool. But I still think it's a pretty solid record for the most part, and it just kind of disappeared. And but I've always held it in fairly high regard. So that's my next
Well,
pick.
supposedly, what hurt that album was they were getting sued for the record art.
The cover, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The family of that child.
Native American on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the record company didn't put any money into promoting it because of that.
Well, that's a shame. I like the cover. That's cool.
Okay, so my next one is a fairly commercial album that I think might have done better if it had come out a couple years earlier. I don't think it was promoted that well. Now, this is an artist that had been out of this, hadn't released an album since 1985. So he'd kind of been behind the scenes, writing songs with other people, producing, doing jingles. Has the distinction of helping Celine Dion start to sing in English, which I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse. I'm talking about Aldo Nova. And this is his album, Blood on the Bricks. Now, this album was co-produced and co-written with John Bon Jovi. Those two go way back. This is slightly heavier. Well, I don't want to say heavier, but it's a more rocking album than definitely his previous one, Twitch. But I've always been a fan of this guy, and I think he should have, been much bigger. And I think this album had several potential hits on it. I just don't think it came out at the right time. And it's got drums on it from Kenny Aronoff, bass from Randy Jackson. I mean, it's an all-star cast on here. Anyway, I've always liked this album. It was Dead on the Vine. It came out mid '91, and it just never got any traction. But I've always been a big fan of it.
You know what, Tim? I own that CD. I picked it up somewhere. I don't know how long ago. I've had it for quite a while. I've never played it.
It's fairly commercial. It's fairly commercial, rock / hard rock. But if you're in the mood for that type of thing, it's pretty good. It's pretty well done.
Yeah, I gotta hunt that one.
He's like he's a singer, multi-instrumentalist, songwriter, producer. He's one of my favorites. And he doesn't have enough. In the last couple of years, he started to release more music. So I'm hoping that
he's
more to
touring
come.
again.
Yeah. I'm hoping there's more to come.
Cool.
I'll have to pick that one up because I like Aldo Nova quite a bit.
Try to get, if you're going to get the CD, and I got to get this on vinyl too, try to get the original CD because there's a reissue of it that has right on the cover featuring John Bon Jovi, like we didn't know. So try to get an original one that doesn't say that. It's like this, that, put it on a sticker. Don't put it on the album itself.
Yeah.
It's like when they used to do that, those Kim Mitchell, they'd have
Max Webster featuring
Yeah.
Kim Mitchell. Yeah, it ruins it. It's like that's what hype stickers are for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
my number
Aaron.
5 is my number 5 is a debut album from one of my favorite bands. And since they only had 4 albums, and then they've all gone on to do other projects and become more famous than this band, which was very influential as the Palm Desert Stoner Rock originators, and it's Caius with Wretch. Amazing heavy record. Of course, you got John Garcia on the vocals. My favorite Garcia in music. And, Josh Homme on the guitar, who went on to be in Queens of the Stone Age and Them Crooked Vultures and Eagles of Death Metal. Nick Oliveri on the bass, who was also in a couple of projects with him, and Brant York on the drums. But this is the start of a 4-album run that was just amazing by Caius. They're heavy. They have a really the production is really weird. You have to crank these albums up, but I blew out a speaker listening to one of them because I had to crank it up so loud it like melted the speaker. But man, it's Son of a Bitch is one of my favorite songs. I love that song on here, but every song's good. Black Widow, Love Has Passed Me By, just amazing musicianship and very unique band for they kind of started a movement, and not enough people really listen to them that I think should. So I love Caius, one of my favorite bands.
It's a great album, Aaron. You really got me into them. But there's an interview with Nirvana in '91, and they said, "Well, what do you guys listen to?" And they said, "Caius." Yeah. So
yeah,
great.
I saw that.
Yeah.
All right. This album, it's from one of my favorite artists of all time, from my favorite band of all time. And this was the era of the Unplugged album. This is Paul McCartney's Unplugged album. And, Paul McCartney in the 80s, it seemed like he was going to turn into like another Phil Collins. He had the Ebony and Ivory, and then the next album, Say, Say, Say. And then he had the, Get My Regards to Broad Street, where he did these like poppy versions of remakes of Beatles songs. And then he had his next album, Press to Play, which was even more poppier. And, I think Hugh Pagdam, or however you pronounce his name, he produced that record. And it was like, oh God, Paul McCartney, he's turning into like another Phil Collins. And then he came out with the Flowers in the Dirt album, and it was like, oh, okay, that's the Paul McCartney hasn't lost it. He collaborated with Elvis Costello on some tracks. And then he actually went and played live. Like he hadn't toured America since I think like the Wings Over America day, back in like 76, 77. And so he's actually going on tour. So if you're a Paul McCartney or a Beatles fan, it was like no better time because he was sounding great. He had a great band. And then he went on Unplugged and played some Beatle hits here. He plays some, like he does Blue Moon of Kentucky, which was one of those Elvis Presley Sun Session tracks. But he does Beatles stuff like Here, There, and Everywhere. We Can Work It Out. He does Every Night off his first solo album. And That Would Be Something from the McCartney solo album. He does a couple of Elvis covers. I mean, he's really in his element on this Unplugged. They've never issued it on vinyl, to my knowledge, so I hope that they do a reissue at some point and stop fucking around. But as of yet, the only time, and it's called the official bootleg, which I don't know what that means because it was always commercially available as far as I knew. But
didn't he have? Wasn't that the one that came out in Russia first?
he did another one.
Oh, that's a different one.
Whatever it was, but it was like around the same time. Cover artwork looks pretty similar, except it's kind of got like a red tint to it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he put those out like almost back to back, where it was like a live album where he does a bunch of like 50s covers and early 60s covers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a different album than the Unplugged one, but same era.
Doesn't it blow your mind that every record store day we get like 15 picture discs and they don't do Paul McCartney Unplugged? It doesn't make any sense.
But that's true to form for the Beatles. It's like, oh, what do the fans want? Okay, let's give them the completely opposite of what they are wanting or expecting.
Crazy. All right, well, my next one is easily one of my favorite albums of 1991, if not my favorite album. I absolutely love this album. I spin it all the time, and that's going to be Badlands, Voodoo Highway, Jake E. Lee. This obviously did not do well. That's an understatement. I actually have I didn't see him on this tour, but I do have a tour shirt. And I heard they were traveling in like a van, like a family minivan on this tour. That's how poorly the album sales really were, and the record company wasn't supporting them. But if you've never heard this record, it's very difficult. You can't stream it. It's not out there. But the cover of Fire and Rain, the James Taylor song, is unbelievable. It is so good. Jake E. Lee is so good on this album. And, I totally recommend it. By this point, Eric Singer was no longer in the band. He had moved on to Kiss. But highly recommend it. That's my next pick.
If you like Jake E. Lee, I think, didn't he play on an Ozzy album? Ozzy Osbourne used to be in Black Sabbath.
Yeah, that guy, Ozzy.
Yeah.
Some Barker or something, Yeah, I mean, Jake E. Lee is supposedly trying to buy the rights to that music so he can release it. So we'll see what happens, but who knows?
All right. So my next pick is easily one of my favorite albums from this artist. And he's an artist who I think is known for having very uneven albums. And that would be, Boogie People by George Thorogood. I really love this album. Now George always has a lot of cover songs on his albums, right? That's kind of what he's known for. But he's got 4 original songs that he wrote, and 3 of them are some of my favorite songs. Of course, he had the hit "If You Don't Start Drinking, I'm Gonna Leave." I love that. I love the guitar line in that. He's also, let's see, let me look here. What are the the title track, "Boogie People." That's an original song. That's a great song. I love that. And then he has a song on here that he wrote called "Oklahoma Sweetheart," which is like, it basically sounds like a country song, but I don't know why that song resonates with me. I love that. It's just a change of pace for him. I think it's a great song. And then, of course, he does do a couple of, like, as far as the covers, the ones I really like is, naturally, he does a John Lee Hooker song. He does the Madman Blues. He does a great job on that. He does a Howlin' Wolf song of "No Place to Go." That sounds really good, too. And so those songs alone kind of really make this album stand out for me. So "Boogie People" by George Thorogood.
Great pick, man.
And then they made a movie out of it, didn't they?
Yeah. Except they called it Boogie Nights. Yeah.
Oh, that's where he was going with it. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew it was something.
Jeff's going somewhere. My next the one I'm going to show is a weird example of a band that went from having, I think, a double or triple album, triple platinum album, to a single platinum album, to an album that completely died in the water. And I remember I bought this the same time I bought that Richie Sambora album. This one completely just, at least in North America. This is Europe,
Wow.
Prisoners
Yeah.
in Paradise. And this is their 5th album, and it ended up being their last for 13 years. And this is an album that it was a year or two too late. Like by this time, grunge was definitely starting to make inroads, but I don't think Sony lifted a finger to promote this. I read one interview in Metal Edge, and that was it. This album was produced by Beau Hill, so it's a different kind of sounding album for them. It's a very American sounding album. If you can imagine, I don't know, I guess the quick comparison would be Winger with Joey Tempest singing. But I think there's great songs on here. All or Nothing, Halfway to Heaven should have been a big hit. See, this is the thing. They were still having hits over in Europe. Like I think the ballad I'll Cry For You was like #1 song for them in at least in Sweden. And there's some heavier stuff on here like Seventh Sign. But yeah, this was a great album that just did not even stand a chance. And I've always been a big fan of it. Got to get it on vinyl. And that's my next pick.
Mm-hmm.
Good pick, man. Hard one to find, that's for sure. I've never seen it on the never. So,
Right, my number 4. This is my favorite album by this band, and they had 3 albums that are totally different sounding than all their other albums. And one of them's industrial, one of them's this, and the other one is very hair metal. And this is Shotgun Messiah with Second Coming. My favorite album by this band, and by this time Tim Skold had taken over the vocals on the second and third album, and starting with Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll all the way to Can't Fool Me. Every song is good. Just a hard rocking, great album to party to, just like all these were for me. I listened to this so much back in '91 on cassette, and man, and it still sounds as good today as it did then. I mean, it doesn't lose anything over time, which is really cool. But I Want to Know, I think that an EP, I Want to Know EP after this, but that's a phenomenal album. Shotgun Messiah, Second Coming.
Nice.
love that record. Took us a long time to get that on vinyl, buddy.
Oh, yeah.
All right, the next album I'm going to show, it's going to be like an obvious choice, but in any event, just to kind of give a little context, this would have been probably like 1990. There was a local record store, not a chain record store. It was like a local record store, and they would sell some new music, but they also had like a lot of used music and T-shirts and comic book paraphernalia and stuff like that. And they would always have like these cassettes, these promo cassettes for free that, when you bought something, hey, take this home and listen to it. It's some new local band or up and coming band that, we've got a stack of these like cassettes. And one of them, it was for a song called Alive, and it was by this band called Pearl Jam. And on the flip side, or on the side 2 of the cassette, it had a cover of the Beatles' I've Got a Feeling. And that's why I picked it up, because I'm like, oh, I wonder, how they do this cover. And my brother and I were kind of laughing because they were always like shit cassettes. You knew like the bands were never going anywhere. You were never going to hear from them ever again. And so we picked it up, took it home, listened to it. It's like, okay, yeah, like the Alive song, whatever. But yeah, they do a pretty decent cover of, I've Got a Feeling, and didn't think much of it. And then, 6 months later, all of a sudden, Alive is all over the radio. Everybody knows who Pearl Jam is. And then they follow it up with, Jeremy and all the other great hits from this record. This isn't the original artwork. This is like a reissue of it. But yeah, I do like it. And just because the songs were all over the radio, Even Flow was all over the radio, Black, Jeremy, like all these songs, I was like sick to death of it. And so some time had to pass. And then after I hadn't heard it in a while, I'd go back and listen to it. I was like, you know what? These songs are really good. And it's not really grunge. It's more like classic rock, even though they got lumped in with the Nirvanas and the Alice in Chains and the Soundgardens and Stone Temple Pilots and all that. But yeah, it's a solid album. I don't know that it's my favorite Pearl Jam record, but it's the one that I still enjoy listening to from time to time. And I figure somebody's got to show it. Damn it. From 1991.
I love that song, Black, man. I've never not loved that song. I've never gotten sick of that song. I love it. Yeah, so many good songs on that album.
Yeah,
and I'm actually looking for that.
Once is fantastic. Once could have easily been a hit. I mean, so much great stuff on that record.
Yeah, awesome pick, man.
Thanks. All right, back to you.
Yeah, my next pick. I want to thank Aaron because he gave me the vinyl, but I remember getting it day one. I remember being in school, couldn't wait to get out of school to go to Strawberries Records and Tapes to buy this album. And that was Anthrax, Attack of the Killer Bees. At that point, Anthrax was probably my favorite band. They were definitely my favorite thrash band. And I was so excited for this. I know it had the big hit with Public Enemy, but knowing that they were going to do a Kiss cover, right? It was like, there's another one of my favorite bands. They do Parasite. They do a great cover of Parasite. There are some SOD covers on here, which I was a fan of SOD already. It's mostly hodgepodge of like B-sides and live tracks, but I was so starved for Anthrax, and I'm so happy to get this. And thank you once again, Aaron, for VCL teaming me this. It's such a great record. But yeah, that's my next pick. Anthrax, Attack of the Killer Bees.
Starting Up a Posse is my favorite now.
Oh, great one. I used to have to lower that so my dad wouldn't hear it.
Is that the one that's got the fake ballad on it that sounds like a ballad except the lyrics?
Yeah. That's
NFB, nice fucking ballad. Yeah, you got hit by a truck and they're crying at the end. Yeah. Oh, I love that album. Yeah.
All right.
All right, so, Gary.
It's funny you were talking about Pearl Jam, and like when 10 came out and Versus and everything, I was so much into them, and now I can't stand them. I mean, if I never hear that album 10 again in my life, I'm fine with that. Like I hear the song Jeremy on the radio, boom, man, I am turning it. There's just something about, at some point, man, I got sick of them. I don't know. I could probably listen to Versus now, but
that's my favorite.
I don't think I could listen to 10 again. That's just, I don't know what it is. Part of me is because I kind of can't stand Eddie Vedder. So I think that's a part of it, but I don't know. It's weird because I love that band so much. And then I just got tired of them.
Gary, if you don't have anything nice to say, will you please,
I'm just trying to be like you, Jeff.
Just kidding.
Yeah. It's like what Jeff was talking about REM. He was so restrained.
Yeah,
he was, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I know. That's the credo that I live by, Tim. Is if I don't have anything nice to say, I will just shut my mouth.
You should listen to Mother Love Bone. That was a couple of guys from that before.
Yeah, I just picked up that Mother Love Bone album a couple of months ago.
Anyway, my next pick, I don't want to spend too much time. We're going on here forever. But I've got Damn Right, I've got the Blues by Buddy Guy. Like I said, I was really listening to a lot of blues at this time. And this was a comeback album for Buddy Guy at that time. He had kind of been forgotten, but, he was getting mentioned a lot by like Stevie Ray Vaughan and, the Rolling Stones and stuff. And this is a good sounding record. I was lucky that I was able to see him on this tour. So this would have been the first time I'd ever got to see him at a very small place. Because like after this album kind of started getting a little bit more popular, he started playing bigger places, not huge, but then he started getting on places like him and BB King would both play. So then they'd be at like real big places. But I saw him in this very, very small place. And that was just something. I mean, he was up there at the end and, he just kind of waving and playing his guitar with one hand. And I went up. I had a guitar magazine, and it had him and Jeff Beck on the cover. And I handed him that magazine, and I had a marker there, and he signed it. He autographed it for me, just right from the stage. And then somehow I fucking lost that. I lost that, and now that kills me that I lost that. But anyway, Damn Right I've Got the Blues by Buddy Guy is just a solid blues album.
It's funny. This is entirely off. Well, not entirely off topic, but anyway, have you ever seen like these channels where they'll put out like these fake? It's like AI generated, but they'll put out like these fake blues recordings from purportedly from like the 30s or 40s or whatever. I just like stumbled across this one, and it was like kind of like Robert Johnson quality recording, where it's like real scratchy. It's like some old black bluesman on a beat up acoustic guitar like singing away, and it was a song. It was called "That Fart Left a Mark," and it was it was like
I've seen more of them where it's like these female country singer things or pop ones, and it's always something about
and if you don't pay attention, you just think, but then you listen to the lyrics, you're like, okay, this isn't legit.
It's always about you can put it in my butt tonight.
Oh, this guy was really progressive back in
and
then again, they do play some actual songs from back then, and you're just like, holy cow, I can't believe that some of these lyrics. So my next one is, like, I've talked about albums that were a few years too late. This is the debut album from a band that was too late. They should have started in 1987. And for one, I don't know why, but summer 91, they came out and just didn't stand a chance. Harem Scarum. Now, if you like Def Leppard, Hagar era, Van Halen, any kind of commercial hard rock, this was really, really, really good stuff. Now, this album came out and it did get some airplay, but it just wasn't time for this type of music anymore. I mean, look at them, this type, it just wasn't going to last. But I've always been a fan of this band. They're still out there. They just put a new album out this year. And I actually did get a reissue of this first album on vinyl. But if it sounds like you like this kind of thing, check out Harem Scarum. They're probably, if you like melodic hard rock, they're the best band you haven't heard yet.
Do they still look like that?
No, shorter hair. Same lead singer, Harry Hass, same guitar player, Pete Lesperance. Now, what's interesting is that the drummer, who also sings some of the songs, a guy by the name of Darren Smith. Now, he doesn't drum with them anymore, but he always sings backup on their albums. He sang in Jake E. Lee's Red Dragon Cartel, and for a time, and I saw him as Paul Stanley in a Kiss tribute band once, because I was like, boy, he sounds familiar. And then he was talking, and I'm like, that's Darren Smith from Harem Scarum. This would have been like 2001, but yeah.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
Jake E. Lee was in a band called Badlands. I don't know if
he was.
Yeah. Yeah, he's with a folk singer named Ozzy before that.
Exactly.
I've heard that too.
Musical songs they sang.
All right, Aaron.
All right. My number 3 has already been shown, but I got to show it's my 3rd favorite album of the year. And I remember my friend lived in Portland. I used to live there, but my friend was still there, and he had a recording from the radio, an advanced recording of the song THC Groove. And me and my friends played that over and over and over. And it's Bullet Boys with Freak Show. And I know Josh already showed this, but, Hang on St. Christopher is one of my favorite covers of the 90s. I love that cover. And the title song Freak Show is probably my favorite song on the album. If you listen to that in the stereo, it's got one of those where it kind of goes around the room, like all the weird, cool effects things of that song. It's really cool how they did that. A lot of people did that stuff in the 60s, 70s, but back in 91 doing that is pretty cool. But amazing guitar work on here. Just a great album. Jimmy Sixpack Deanda on the drums. Every song's good. Starting with Hell Yeah. THC Groove, always been one of my favorites. I didn't like they re-recorded THC Groove recently, and I don't like how that one sounds because I'm so used to the original. But the advanced version of it was even better. It was really cool. I wish I still had that recording. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
Love
I
that
gotta hear
album.
the advanced version. I've never heard
Huh?
the re-recording.
Oh, haven't you? I've heard it on the radio, like they put it on Sirius Radio, and I was like, this doesn't
Oh,
sound right.
really?
And yeah, it just sounds weird. It's like Axe redid the Offering album, and all the songs sound a little weird. Like, so
Yeah, that's not cool.
yeah.
Good work, man.
I think they do that to get the rights to it again, because if you re-record it, you can bypass the record company thing. But
Yeah.
very rarely do they sound as good.
This is an artist. I feel like this is, for me, the way that Josh feels about Tom Waits, where I've always loved this guy as an artist, excellent songwriter. And I feel sometimes like I'm out on an island. Like, why don't more people talk about this guy? He's great. He's got a long catalog. He's been around. First solo album was released in 1977, and he still sporadically puts out records with, various results and whatnot. But this is Elvis Costello and his album Mighty Like a Rose. And this is where he kind of transformed his image. He had long hair and a beard for the first time ever and freaked out a lot of people who were not expecting him to kind of go in that direction. But this is a period where he was collaborating with Paul McCartney. There are some songs that appeared on Flowers in the Dirt. And then his next, he had an album Spike, where the song Veronica, which he and Baby plays around. There were a couple albums on the Spike, a couple songs on the Spike album that were collaborations between him and Paul McCartney. And then you have they collaborated on the song So Like Candy from this album. But commercially, it didn't do as well as Spike did. Even though stylistically it's really not that much different. He's not with the Attractions. It's now 2 albums in that he doesn't use the Attractions as his backing band, but it's a solid album. I've always loved his songwriting, and he tells a story with almost every song that he writes. But I do, there were times where it was like, ooh, maybe he could replace John Lennon and the Beatles, because he's got that kind of snarky sort of songwriting and kind of caustic sense of humor like John Lennon used to have. But this is kind of one of those records that it's really overlooked in Elvis Costello's catalog, but I like it a lot. I like Other Side of Summer, which did get some minimal radio play. And I remember when I bought it, like, I did not like it because it was just, I don't know, there was something about it that I didn't connect with. I think I got it on CD, and then I sold it quickly after because I was not enjoying it. And then later I revisited it, and now it's, probably a top 10 Elvis Costello album for me. But anyway.
Awesome. Great pick, man.
Kind of funny you were saying that, because he almost looks like John Lennon on that cover, like when he had long hair.
Yeah, with like the horn rim glasses.
Yeah.
Like from the Hey Jude, back of the Hey Jude cover.
Yeah.
Cover of that.
He's definitely going for a look there.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. My next pick is actually a live album. And in 91, I was obsessed with this artist. I've been obsessed with this artist most of my life because it was one of my father's favorite artists. And he had 2 hard rock albums back to back. And they're 2 of my favorites, Freedom and Ragged Glory. Then he came out with this Bad Larry double live album, Weld, which is so grungy, so heavy. And it's almost all hard rock songs, like Rockin' the Free World's on here, Cortez the Killer's on here, Like a Hurricane. He does do a Bob Dylan cover, Candle in the Wind, but it's almost all straight up rockers. And then he ends with like Tonight's the Night and Roll Another Number, which is still rock, but more mellow. Like, it's just like a full assault of hard rock from Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Tons of distortion, tons of awesome. It's not even my favorite Neil Young album, but it's awesome.
I think Elton John wrote Candle in the Wind, actually.
Oh no, it's not blowing in the wind. Sorry,
Blowing in the wind. Okay.
blowing in the wind. My
I would love to, for the record, Josh, I would love to hear a hard rocking metal version of Candle in the Wind. I think somebody told us that, but
There must be
Neil.
an AI version somewhere out there by now.
Yeah. We can make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. That's an excellent pick. I love it.
Thanks.
So I'm going to have to kind of be a jerk here. I'm going to just do my next two because I got to be going. I got to get up really early.
No problem. Dude.
So I got to be to work by 5. So anyway, my number 2, I don't really need to talk about it because Tim already did a pretty good job. And that's Alice Cooper, Hey Stupid. All I'll say about this is Might As Well Be on Mars, Little by Little, Feed My Frankenstein. I mean, those are great songs. I love them. And my number 1 pick here, I can thank our good friend Josh for that. And that is The Sky Is Crying by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan was, to me, when they say when the gods walked on earth, that's how I feel about him. So, this is not his best album, but the fact that it's him is released, after he was already gone, because he died in 1990. But the song itself, The Sky Is Crying, I love that. I love his version of that. That is fantastic. And the song that he ends the album with, Life by the Drop, which is just him on acoustic guitar, is fucking fantastic. It's a very heartfelt song. And, when you listen to it now with him being gone, I remember when I first heard it, I mean, I cried hearing that song, and it still gets to me. So that's why, it's easy. I could probably say maybe there's some stronger albums, that came out this year than this, but the fact that it's just one of my favorite artists, and this was, you weren't expecting to get any more music from him. So it's Stevie Ray Vaughan. So Sky Is Crying. That's my number 1 pick. So
he does a great version of Little Wing on there too.
Yes,
He does.
Yeah. It's great. So.
And Gary, I didn't pull that because I figured you would.
I gotta get out of here, guys. So
Take care, brother.
Hi, Gary.
yeah, it was great seeing all of you guys. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
It's nice seeing you too, Tim. So
Thanks, Gary.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
Night.
All right.
So my next one is like my last two. Honestly, they're two of my favorites. But I think I did a pretty good job showing ones that are off the beaten path. There's not much to say about it. Skid Row, Slave to the Grind. I mean, I really wish these guys would get over themselves and reunite before somebody dies. I mean, Sebastian Bach said recently, if Rush and Triumph can reunite, go back on tour, why can't Skid Row? I think it's Rachel Bolan. I don't think it's Snake. But whatever it is, and all they're doing now, because they can't keep a lead singer, is they're showing how to play guitar solos, and they're showing fans holding up albums. It's like they've got nothing to do. So I just talk about wasted time. No, like pun fully intended. I just wish these guys would go over themselves, and because they were my favorite band on their first album. That's how much I was into that first album. So this one came out. It was heavier, which bands never got heavier. They always got lighter. I love the fact they went, and yet that they still had great songs. Monkey Business came out. Oh, it just kicked my ass. But I just listened to this today. I still think it holds up. Michael Wagner's production, bone dry, but just perfect, and a great album.
It's a masterpiece.
I got to get that on vinyl too. I don't have that on vinyl.
Yes, go do it, man.
Yeah.
All right. My number 2 pick. This band, I talk about them all the time. They only had 2 albums, and they're 2 of my all-time favorite albums. Sweet F.A. with Temptation. This album is a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. A lot of people didn't like this that were fans of them because I think it starts off with kind of mid-tempo, then a slow song. And their first album started out, it says Right in Your Face. But their heavy songs are at the end of the sides, like Vices and Reckless. Those 2 songs are maybe the heaviest ones they did. But Storm is Moving In is just an amazing song. They have a little progressive element to them, where they have tempo changes, all different parts of the songs. It isn't just chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. They'll have other little parts of the songs which are really cool. And there's acoustic stuff on here. There's hard rockers, everything, and they're just phenomenal. They're driven by their drummer Tricky Lane, who came from a thrash background. So I think that added a different element to them as being this kind of a sleaze metal, but with that kind of hard rock and drumming like that. And just one of my favorite albums ever, always has been. And I think it's just killer. So there we go. Number 2.
Love it, dude. Great one.
All right, this is kind of a comeback album. I think I've shown albums by this band. I know I have when we've done previous years live streams, but it's kind of in a way, a comeback, considering it was 1991 and they were very much like early mid 80s, and then people kind of forgot about them. And then they had a hit with a song called American Music, and that's the Violent Femmes with Why Do Birds Sing. But this is kind of a return to form, much like their debut. It's very much kind of acoustic guitar oriented. There are some other instruments on here, but it really kind of harkens back to what everybody loved about that first album. No, it's not as good as their first album, but it's still sort of like, okay, this is what we remember and love from the Violent Femmes, because they kind of got a little bit away from that sound. They started incorporating more textures, more elaborate kind of arrangements and glossier production styles. They even had Jerry Harrison produce one of their albums, but with this, it's kind of like a back to basics kind of an album, and I think that's what I like about it the most.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, my number 1 pick. It's so funny because I was really going to pick Skid Row because I love that album, and I was thinking about Shotgun Messiah, but I had to show this artist because he's one of my favorite artists of all time, and that is Tom Petty. Into the Great Wide Open. Jeff Lynne produced. They tried to capture Lightning in a Bottle again. What Full Moon Fever was like the biggest record of Tom Petty's career, and even though it was 2 times platinum, it had probably one of his biggest hits, Learning to Fly, on it. Into the Great Wide Open was a huge hit. People still compare it to Full Moon Fever as like, oh, it didn't sell as well. But any other artist would have loved to have on this. I love the song Built to Last, and the song King's Highway, I think it was featured in one of the Cars movies, is now like a huge hit or streaming hit that really wasn't when it came out. I like Jeff Lynne's production. I prefer Rick Rubin's production on the next album, Wildflowers, but I love this album and I love Tom Petty, as you guys know. So I wanted to show it, and I figured that one of you would show Skid Row. So thank you, guys.
Good choice.
It got right down to the last 2, and I'm like, well, I got to go with what I think are, And so my number 1, I guess, so this would be my favorite of 91 because I love this band anyway. Now, this album was considered a bit of a comeback in terms of being a little bit heavier compared to the last 2, a little bit less pop, a lot less keyboards. Van Halen, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. This was produced it was the first time the band had worked with Andy Johns, so it's got that great Bonham-esque drum sound from Alex on here, and actually Ted Templeman co-produced some of it. And I come to find out later on, because Andy Johns, rest in peace, was drunk most of the time. He accidentally erased some of Sammy's vocals. So Sammy brought Ted in just to produce his vocals. So that gave Ted the distinction of working with Sammy as a solo artist in Montrose and Van Halen with Dave solo, and Van Halen with Sammy. But I mean, Pound Cake. The thing is, it had been 3 years since OU went too, so I didn't even know they had a new album coming out. I saw it in the store, and I think it was still in the box. I pulled one out of the box and went and bought it. And I hadn't heard anything off it. I had no idea what the first single was or anything. And I first heard, wow, and I'm like, what is going on here? It's still my favorite Van Halen album. So, yeah, that had to be my number 1.
Awesome, man. That's a bold statement, but I'm glad. I love the Sammy mix.
I know. And I get Hey, look, I wrote a book about Sammy Hagar's solo career, so I'm used to taking crap. So
Yeah.
I love Hagar solo. Great stuff. Now my number one, it had to be this record. And Tim, thanks for putting it out. It's Slave to the Grind. I mean,
yeah,
just the heaviest. I mean, when this came out, it kind of changed everything. If it's, I mean, for all those metal bands like this, if they didn't get heavier like this after this point, then they kind of fell off and people stopped listening to them. But this album, I mean, it's just so good. I thought it was going to be Sweet FA, and I listened to them back to back when I was drinking last night. I was like, no, it's got to be this. It's just so heavy. Stuff like The Threat and Slave to the Grind, that song,
Yeah.
and Living on a Chain Jam. The Threat itself is just so good. And it's even got my favorite ballad they ever did, In a Darkened Room. I love that one.
yeah.
Waste of Time, of course, is a classic, but Mud Kicker and Riot Act and just every song on it. This is a game changer. It was for music, I thought. And it's just my favorite album of the year.
It's a shame they couldn't have
Slave
kept
to the
it
Grind.
together and kept and
I
just,
know.
with that lineup had punched out another 4 or 5 albums.
Yeah, because I love Subhuman Race. I actually like better than that, but not by much. 'Cause I love both of them.
I could never fully get into Subhuman Race, and I tried so hard.
I love that album.
Oh,
I love that album so much.
Yeah.
But I love Slave to the Grind's right there. I mean, they're two of my all-time favorite albums. They're in top 20 albums of all time, both of them for me, probably. By anybody. So I love it.
Come on, get back together, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was having this funny memory of 1991. 1991, just to give you a little bit of perspective, I was 21 years old, and I married my first wife in December of 1991, and we lived in this tiny one-bedroom apartment. It was not in a great area of town, but because we were both young and broke at the time. But anyway, my stereo, because you know, CDs by that point were still relatively new. I mean, more and more people were getting CD players, but my setup at the time, because I was starting to buy CDs now, like vinyl was like, okay, yeah, like we're moving on from vinyl. So anything new I buy, it was either going to be on cassette if I was strapped for money, or it would be on CD if I could really splurge. But anyway, the CD setup that I had one of these like Walkman CD players, and they had these speakers that you could buy that you could plug into the headphone jack. And then, I mean, the sound was absolute dog shit, but it was better than not, you know, only being able to listen to your CDs on the headphones or whatever. And it was like in this tiny apartment, my little Walkman with these tiny little speakers plugged into the headphone jack. And that was like, you know, so, you know, ridiculously lo-fi back then. But, you know, it was like a CD like this that I would have listened to, you know, on that shitty little setup that I had. Now, I had a great stereo for my records, you know, and cassettes, because I had a proper, you know, receiver and a turntable and a cassette player. Those all sounded great, but my CDs ironically sounded all like shit because all I had to play was this tiny little setup. But anyway, I don't know why I'm bringing that story up, but it just kind of occurred to me. But last one I'm going to show is on CD, and this is one that I did buy and have to listen to in that way. But it's Crowded House's third album, Woodface. I know I've talked about Crowded House when we've done our 87 and 88 videos, but you know, this wasn't pre-internet, but in terms of like researching music and bands, you know, when this album came out, there had only ever been 3 members of Crowded House, and then you look on the back and it's like, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. How did that happen? Well, it turns out Tim Finn, for whatever reason, I don't know if he had nothing to do or was looking for some project to be involved in. But, you know, Tim Finn and Neil Finn had both been in Split Enz, the New Zealand band, and obviously had great hits over in New Zealand and some commercial success with that song, I Got You. Back in, I think it was like 1980 or whatever. So they got reunited, at least musically, on this record. And they do harmonize really well. And there are a couple of songs where, you know, Tim does take a lead vocal. But at the same time, it kind of felt like, well, you know, was it necessary? Like, I love those first two albums. Did they need to bring him in? I mean, it worked out fine, but I think still he did change their dynamic a bit when he came and joined the band. But it's still a solid collection. I don't like it as much as I like the first two Crowded House albums, but it's all pure power pop. And if you love Split Enz, you will love this record as well. And that's pretty much all I got to say about it. But, I've always been a big Crowded House fan. So, all right. Well, that was fun. 1991. And we're sorry that your internet dropped off. Yeah, I think
Mine too. Oh, cool.
Garden opening for Skid Row. Imagine that. Yeah.
Yes. Great album.
Best.
Temple of the Dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
One.
Very underrated record here.
I
Yeah.
I almost picked that too. That's a good
Sure.
record.
Yep.
I had a list
So
of like
this-
50 albums.
I had another one too that Aaron wouldn't surprise me if you had.
Oh yeah.
The Tattoo
Oh, is
Rodeo.
it Tattoo Rodeo? No, I don't.
Yeah.
I used to have
No.
that on cassette. It's been a long time since I've heard it.
And I was gonna troll Jeff by making my first 5 selections Rush, Honeymoon Suite, Bryan Adams, Aldo Nova, and Harem Scarum without mentioning where they were from.
Yeah. Well, you showed some great restraint tonight, Tim.
It was like, oh yeah. Well, the Harem Scarum one was hard because they did get some airplay up here, but nowhere else because they were only
I did
on
buy
border from Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, Voivod. Great one. Yeah, I did buy that Harem Scarum Real Good Music reissue. Oh, yeah, McQueen Street, I Napoleon was 1991. Asphalt LA was 1991. I was trying to show
only have
shit that I
those
don't
on
really know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only use some albums, but I have those would have been on my list maybe if they had them on record.
Oh, we'll probably get them. I'm sure by the end. They're doing an unofficial of the second Damn Yankees album, I heard. I know your wife's a fan of that band, Aaron, so.
I like them too. I like them.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks. We'll pick another year and do this again, maybe next week or whenever our schedules align. But thanks everybody for participating. Appreciate all of your comments. No Black Album. I know we did talk about Metallica a little bit, but
There's a reason I didn't show it.
Yeah, I mean, I just
not one of my
figured.
favorites.
yeah.
It's one of the only Metallica records I don't listen to. I just got so burned out of it.
I
can't
like
listen
it.
to
I
anymore.
just figured it was too obvious. So
Yeah,
There's a couple songs I can still listen to, but it's a lot of it's so repetitive. And I had friends that played it like on repeat play at parties, and that's all you'd hear all night. And then it's hard for me to listen to those songs
that
now.
would-
Like
yeah,
Sabbath
no, that-
True is good,
yeah, that would do it.
but it's
Yeah,
just the same riff over and over. It's like
a couple other CDs I'd grabbed were Queen, Innuendo, and Mr. Big Lean Into It. But
all right, guys. Well, I got to go because I'm working
Yeah,
early in the morning,
yeah.
too. We'll
All
talk soon.
right.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks,
thanks,
guys.
guys.
Bye.